guys, we're live with Katiecoolady. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Judy. I'm doing well. And you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Still getting up for a cold. So like I said, thank you so much for joining on this live. So I don't have to keep talking the whole time. So
yeah, everybody knows I can handle the talking department.
Okay, yeah. I'm really impressed with your channel and how you can just keep talking so naturally and so well for so long. So pretty amazing. So tell us about your background in a nutshell.
My background, is related to this trial,
in general.
In general, well, I'm retired. I'm living in Pennsylvania. My background, professionally, was I was a nurse for many years and worked mostly in psychiatry and head injury rehab. And then I went off on my own and owned a holistic health center, developed a practice in a form of mind, body, hands-on therapy for almost 30 years, did that, and then retired, sold my practice and moved to Pennsylvania. And then, anyway, my background, true crime related, is most people know about me that my sister was a homicide victim in 1988, been through 2 serious death penalty trials. Both were convicted, sentenced to death. And I've been dealing with appeals for 34 years now in that. One of them died last year in prison of natural causes, which was a blessing because he had been released from death row, and we had to go through a horrific appeal that got him out of death row and into general population, in which I started having to go to parole hearings for him every year. And I hadn't had to do that for 30 years. And suddenly now I'm in parole hearings every year. So he was only in that population, I think, for about 7 years before he died in prison. They said of natural causes. I never found out the particulars of it. But so that was a blessing because that got him gone. But the other one is still appealing. And so I know a lot about the appeals process. So I speak about that on my channel. Just because people think when a trial's over, it's over. But, a murder trial, but it opens a whole other world. That death penalty is a lot worse in that way. Yeah. But so I try to educate people, on those kind of things, and of course I've got a unique voice as a victim, as a victim's family member who's been living with it for a long time. And so like Ruth, she is doing her book event right now, right now. Right. Yeah. She's down there. And I heard from her today about that. I sent her an email and wished her well. And she wrote me back just an hour ago. And so she's heading out for it. So that's going on right now. So, send her good vibes. That's going to be a really good event. Yeah.
I forgot it's going on tonight.
Tonight? Yeah, it's probably happening right now or starting. So
that's right. Yeah, I thought Debbie had said she was going to go. So Debbie, are you on your way? So yeah. And Bruce also said he was going to be there. So that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dennis Murphy's going to be there. And, they're going to have a good lineup of people there. So yeah, I look forward to hearing about that.
Okay, great. Yeah, Debbie says she's outside. Okay.
I just want to say a little thing about how I was thinking today, how I first connected with you, Judy, because you were probably the first YouTuber that I connected with on this case. And I mean, I had seen Mentor Lawyer stuff because I had seen his stuff he had posted, about the interrogation, Wendy's interview and stuff like that. So, I mean, I had been on his channel for watching that material, but in terms of a YouTuber content creator, you were the first person I connected with. And I was just remembering today, I went for many hours, at least a half a day, with you tucked in my garden apron. And I was, in my garden, digging and planting and, whatever I was doing. And because I have these 2 plots, and you were with me the whole day. I listened to you for hours. And then I came home and I wrote you an email, about thank you for keeping me company and this enthusiastic email. I can't believe I found somebody that's so into this case. And, and you wrote me back.
Okay.
It was over a year ago. I forgot to tell you that. I was just really that today, and I couldn't believe you wrote me back because I was just writing you a fan letter, And you wrote me back.
That's funny because I thought you got hooked in because you talked to Fancy Fiction first, and then she had you on her show, right?
That was after. That
Oh,
was after I
okay,
knew about
cool.
you. Yep, she came
Okay.
after you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I was on that American Monster, and then, she and I got together to do, like, a little, like, post that show interview on her channel, so I did that too, but that was way after I connected with you and your channel.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think I mentioned this to you, but I mean, my situation is not as, severe as what happened with your sister, but there was a friend of mine, Robert Wan, who was murdered back in 2006. So that's a case that I've been following a lot. Unfortunately, nothing's going on with that case. So it does bring to mind something you said, which was that sometimes people get into true crime because you feel injustice, that you've been the victim of it. So you just really want to somehow do something, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, so I appreciated your insight as someone who's a victim of a crime. So,
Yeah, and even if you have like, in our case, we did get justice, and,
mhm.
there's still, even with that, is something that's just, I'll just say it's satisfying about seeing justice served in these cases, and seeing people, held accountable, it's just soothes something inside of me, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's so frustrating going through the whole process. And I can't believe that your sister's killers were sentenced in the 80s, you said, and the
They
case
were
is still
91, they were
on.
set, I believe it was
Okay.
91. She was killed, well, we're getting ready to come up to the anniversary, which is this Saturday. So she was killed in the evening on the 23rd, and her body was found on December 24th.
Oh,
So, we've had to deal with Christmas every year since then. So it was like to the end of the year. So it wasn't till 91 that they were convicted and sentenced to death. Yep.
oh,
Two separate trials. Yeah.
yeah, so many years. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, on a different topic, I don't know if you can answer this, but do you know if Ruth got to see her grandchildren today?
I know that she got to see them on Sunday.
Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
don't know that from Ruth. I know that
Okay.
secondhand, but,
Okay.
she did get to see them, and I don't know any details, and it's just not an area I don't pry in, like,
Yeah.
if I was with her face to face, I would definitely talk to her about it, but I just feel like that's so private, and, I kind of follow her lead. I'm just still kind of developing that relationship, but I do know that she did get to see them. And my opinion about that is that Wendy let her see them simply because Wendy thinks that looks good for her, or in some way
Good.
helps her in some way. And kind of really, who cares what her motivation is if she let that
Yes.
happen. But,
Yeah.
I just, it's interesting in that regard. Wendy's probably feeling pretty dangling out there and desperate. And so that's an area she's reaching out. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So I think Wendy's on this whole totally different route where she has to make herself look innocent now. So that totally ties in with her not wanting to speak with, Donna and Charlie, probably not even Harvey now. Do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. People think, oh,
Mhm.
poor Harvey. I think she's probably doing her best at distance from him too. Maybe set him up with services or people that can like manage him for her so she doesn't have to. But I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't just separate from the whole lot of them. I mean, who knows? But
Mhm. Yeah, because it's all part of looking innocent at this
protecting
late
herself.
hour. Yeah. Yeah.
She's been doing that since before the crime happened. She started that before they even followed through with it, with her
Mhm.
setting up of Jeff Lacasse and her telling him that, seriously, that Charlie had hired hitman. I mean, she's been insulating herself since before it even happened.
Yeah.
So she's crafty.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Did you hear that part about how Wendy supposedly had been plotting behind Dan's back to leave him back in 2012? And meanwhile, she was still acting like things were great and she was planning his big birthday party. Was that his, his 40th
His
birthday
40th,
party.
I think. Yeah, the
Yeah.
part that I remember, and I don't know if it was in Ruth's book or maybe Steve Epstein's, but I don't know where this came from, but I do distinctly remember this, that they were off on a getaway, like a weekend getaway somewhere. And he was there, and there were other girlfriends, and other couples. And she was confessing to the women of the other couples that she had already planned on leaving him like 3 weeks later. And that they put them in this awkward position of like, what do we know? Not like she dropped this bomb on them. And so that was well in the works,
Yeah.
It had to have been, and Donna was, I'm sure, had her sticky fingers all over that and planning everything, getting everything organized, So sorry, the Donna voice just comes out.
Oh yeah, same here. We will both do our Donna.
Yeah, you got your own Donna voice. So like once it gets in there, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about.
I see, you got a good one too, Judy.
Anyway, yeah, but getting back to that, Dan's friend Tamara mentioned the birthday party thing during her police interview.
Oh, is that where that's from?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Plus, I heard it from another source about how Wendy was supposedly planning his birthday party, telling friends to, help out or send messages so she could compile something for his birthday party. But then at the same time, she already knew she was meeting with the divorce attorney and doing that parenting class through the court system or whatever. So, it shows like she knows how to plant the seeds to make it look like, she's not doing anything. So, yeah. So, let's see. Let's go ahead and show a couple of recent court things before we keep talking. So this was the hot thing from December 15th, which everybody was like wondering, is there something new? But it doesn't look like it. This just looks like a more formal type of search warrant. I hope it shows. Can you guys see it?
I see it.
Okay, great. So it's like 10 pages long, but doesn't really give us any new info. This is about the iPhone from Harvey.
It sure is interesting to read all the extensiveness of the techie stuff they're going after. But nothing seemed new in all that.
Yeah, just same summary from Donna's arrest warrant here. Like a short little summary here. Okay, so I'll just scroll it in case people really want to take a look at it later. Okay, so it's signed by Jason Newland, December 15th. Okay, so they got his iPhone and his iPad. There's one more thing that can't be viewed, but it's probably something similar. Okay, so that was exciting. I'll take it off the screen. Yeah. Oh, and here's another thing just to catch people up to speed. What is this? This is from the civil case, which just says there's supposed to be a trial April 2024. This is his bogus disability insurance claim, which is still pending. Yeah, so I still have no idea, does Charlie have the right to be present at a civil trial when he's supposed to be in prison? Yeah, I have no idea.
That's a good question. Yeah.
So if anybody knows, I would love to know the answer.
That might be also a Florida lawyer question too.
Yeah. Well, Harley's father is a retired judge, federal judge. So I sent him a message asking him if he could ask his dad for the answer. So we'll see if we get a response there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure he'd want to get out for that if he could,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how exciting. Yeah, I'm sure they're not going to let him dress up normally, but maybe he could be like, but from a procedural standpoint, that does seem like a total pain. Like, why should the state release him and then have to transport him?
I bet they do it on Zoom.
Yeah, maybe they'll do it.
Yeah, I bet they could do it on Zoom. And still that would be exciting for him compared to what he's got going on.
Yeah, he's got to have something to look forward to. So how about, grandstanding and showboating again in a different trial? Yeah, acting like his back is still hurting and he deserves tons and tons of money for it. It's so bogus. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty short. So that's the latest stuff. Okay, so tell me more, like, how have you been feeling these last couple of weeks with the different court hearings and the jail calls?
Oh, well, obsessed with the jail calls. That's how I've been feeling.
Yes, same here.
Like I'm around my poor husband and I'm like trying to can I think of a topic, to talk about that's not this, and then I'm trying to work it in. Anyway. Yeah, these jail calls have just been absolutely, obsessive. Like I was saying last night, my Christmas tree back here, I was decorating it. And you'd think you'd be having the Christmas song on and sipping the eggnog. And I was by myself, I wouldn't have done this if I was somebody else. You think you got this whole Christmas spirit thing. And I'm listening to Charlie and Donna.
Yeah, same here. It's like, I should be.
I'm like, I'm nuts.
I understand. You're in good company here. Yeah.
Oh my God. Some of them I'm listening to over and over because they all sound the same. And so I'm not sure if I've listened to it. It's like the only way I can tell is if the green line is. I
think you and I could recite the same phrases that Charlie keeps saying. That she kept saying y'all, that Southern charm, and she kept saying y'all. And why did Wendy have to go by Trescott? She couldn't help herself. Why did she go into Trescott? There are all these other liquor stores. She goes, what a coincidence.
Right.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, did you hear the part about the Dateline thing and where it came from? The idea, the obsession, that came straight from Carl Steinbeck. Huh? So this is a tidbit, Judy. We're all picking up little different things here and there. What? So apparently Charlie was being driven to court the day. Was he convicted the day of the closings? So somehow he was being driven back to court.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And he heard on the radio that Preston Scott show was being played on the radio in the van. Oh. And he heard Carl Steinbeck being interviewed and saying George's closing was like a Dateline episode.
Oh,
so he references that at some point in one of these calls. So that got in his head about a Dateline episode. And I'm sure Carl was saying it as a positive thing because it was so compelling and it told a story, and Dateline episodes are very factual and they take you on a, chronological journey with an outcome at the end, I'm sure I can't speak for him, but I would imagine that's what he meant.
Yeah.
And now Charlie has spun this into that being dumbed down Dateline episode, but it came out of Carl's mouth.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, Charlie did say mentor lawyer, but mentor lawyer James said that he wasn't on a morning show then. So most likely Charlie was getting it mixed up and was probably referring to hearing Carl.
Well, he knew it was a lawyer, I guess. So maybe Charlie assumed it was mentor lawyer. So I'm going to answer one of your questions because somebody asked how your name got on there. Because, and they even said, Judy, it was when Charlie was talking to Bree, and Bree is talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick going live. And he was actually live on your show while that call was going on. So she's telling Charlie, he's on this Judy show with this Judy girl. They were calling you the
girl who's a lawyer. I'm like, am I a girl? I'm like getting close to 50 years old. This is insulting. All my career, I'm sick and tired of people thinking that I'm like a kid or something.
And AA Legal Focus and Charlie didn't see, and they suddenly were into this we're going to get a mistrial over this Ryan being on this girl Judy's show.
Yeah, quick, get Daniel Rashbaum to watch it.
Yeah. So they mentioned Judy. They didn't say your last name and AA Legal Focus, but she said that multiple times. Bree did.
Thank you,
So
Bree.
you got a little free
Thanks
advertising
for
there.
watching. Yeah, well, I didn't really get a big surge of subscribers, so I guess people, they checked out my channel and was like, "Yeah, I don't want to subscribe."
No, they're probably already subscribing. Anybody that's listening to those calls is already in here.
Yeah, that's true. People who are truly addicted to the show, then they're probably subscribed already.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that was interesting, but I sort of knew because wasn't it on STS or somewhere where somebody said, "Oh yeah, Rashbaum listens. He listens to these podcasts." So, and why wouldn't he if he's getting paid to do this? Or he could get an intern to just scour the internet. That's what he did to find Ryan's Facebook post.
Oh,
makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, I mean, does it kind of make you feel a little bit more paranoid knowing that your stuff is probably being listened to by people who don't like you?
I just can't go there like in that kind of way. Like, because I was talking to my husband about that today, about how you got mentioned and that sort of thing. And he's like, how would you feel if that was you? And I was like, I don't, I feel like, you say I'm like in my living room. I feel like I'm in my living room. Like, I don't even look at my numbers. I don't really want to know, because it makes me too nervous, but I would feel vulnerable, I think, if my name was mentioned by anybody associated with the Adelsons. I probably would feel pretty vulnerable,
That's why I'm
creepy, they're pretty creepy, these people.
Yeah, that's why I'm so glad Charlie got convicted, because I was thinking, like, if he doesn't get convicted, maybe I should just shut down my channel, because I don't want all this stuff out there. And as people have said, Charlie is very sneaky and he's good at trying to get at people without leaving traces.
Vindictive.
Yeah, just a sneaky, devious person. And who knows? People in his family are probably like that too. So, yeah. Well, I mean, how much of the phone calls do you think you've listened to?
I probably have gotten through most of them that are out there. I just kind of stuck with Gigi's channel, Pretty Lies and Alibis, simply because I can track myself on there. And at first I got on there because her audio was really good. And so, she had some subtitles. They're not all correct, the subtitles to it. So I got on it that, and then I just thought, well, I'm going to stay on there because then I can see what I've already listened to. Because it's so confusing because he's in such a hamster wheel. It's just over and over and over the same stuff. But I was reflecting on something that Robert said, that's what Charlie does, is that he just beats people down with just saying the same thing over and over and over again to where people finally just will agree with him.
Like Robert said that? Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Was it Robert who said that? I thought it was Katie, or I think Ryan Fitzpatrick also said that last year at Katie's.
Robert said it on Over My Dead Body.
Oh.
He said that about his brother, that he just beats people down with that.
Yeah, and didn't he also say something like the family slogan was "Charlie is always right" because Charlie's never wrong, or something silly like that?
I think that's exactly what it was. Charlie's always right because Charlie's never wrong. Yeah. And I guess, it's very satisfying to think, he has a lifetime of that working for him. And it's not going to work for him now. He can sit there and blather and blather and blather and spin himself into that hamster wheel, but that cell with the mirrors in it is just a perfect metaphor for his whole life now. It's just all bouncing back at him. It's not going to go anywhere,
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you're a retired psychiatric nurse, like, what do you think he suffers from? I mean, this is not a formal diagnosis.
No. Well, I mean, clearly it's a family of narcissists, but narcissism is like linked with so many other things. I have to say, it's controversial, and please don't be hating on me for saying this, but I saw what appeared to me genuine emotion in that day that he had the real scruffy beard, and that was his sentencing, right? That date. And when Phil Markel was reading the victim impact statement, I don't think that his emotion was around Phil's loss, but it was still emotion nonetheless, and sociopaths don't really show a lot of genuine. Like if they're showing emotion, it's more performative. And so, they're trying to portray emotion. But to me, it looked real, which tells me that somewhere in there he has a conscience, so, or something human inside of him. I think Wendy's the biggest monster of all of them, personally. But, Charlie's obviously a raving narcissist, but, they all are.
Yeah, I thought he did look a bit sad during that time that Phil Markel was talking, but it was probably because he's thinking of himself and his son, because he does sound like he does love his son. It's just so sad. I was listening to, Deep Dive True Crime this afternoon when Roman was talking to Charlie, and Roman was like something like the handsomest daddy ever. And then Charlie's telling him he's like this, he bets he's the smartest kid, praising his son. And I think the whole lie is that they're telling the kid that Charlie's been working somewhere. So
yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, that's why Roman asks him, how's work, daddy? And it's so sad because, the poor kid has nothing to do with this. He just has this, murderous, horrible father. And the mom seems really, brainwashed, which is what her relative said.
Oh, yeah. Oh, her relative said that?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Brainwashed. Anytime Donna calls her, she jumps and runs to the phone, or anytime that Charlie would call her. This was months ago.
Oh, okay.
But she's still totally team Charlie.
You can tell on those. And what's interesting though is she keeps saying, I love you to him. She's not really getting it back. You know, he'll say, you guys, I love you guys, or, you're the best mom to Roman, whatever she said. But for him, it's all about Roman. But yeah, I think if they could, they'd discard her too. I don't think there's any love lost for her.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. Can't listen to the kid because it's sad. And Charlie loses it. Well, he should have been a better dad before he got arrested. So, yeah. Well, did you hear that call where Charlie said he was hoping to, once he got freed, he was going to go hang out in a hotel and smoke weed? So I was like, well, what about seeing your child whom you love so much? Instead your priority was to go and spoil yourself in a hotel.
I didn't catch that. I heard a part where he was talking about being alone for a few days. So he was, he probably was going to go in a hotel and get some prostitutes. He doesn't want to go back home because he's got that woman there. He wants to indulge his whole package.
Yeah. What about that woman, Janice, who, her priority was getting those 2 TVs and free housing? Gosh, it's laughable. It's like there are people that are really like this after all that's come out in the press.
It's just, it's really creepy that, it's just like people using each other. All these people just using each other is, and at the same time, they're, poor you, Charlie. They've got to know he's guilty, but they're stroking that because they want something. I honestly feel that way about Bree. She's plugged into a family of means, but it's like, here they're saying they can't place the dog with her because she's living in a small apartment and doesn't have a yard. And they're so concerned about where they're going to put the dog. But they don't think that maybe they could upgrade Bree and Roman's life to put them in a situation where they where the child could have a yard and then to have the dog. No, they just look for another place to place the dog instead of thinking, here's Bree working full time, living in a small apartment, and these are multimillionaires.
Yeah, that's why I'm not sure what the real truth is here. Just like with the whole Adelson thing, because her relative had said in a Facebook response that Donna had purchased a home for Bree, but that doesn't sound right because then why is Bree now, in North Carolina, I think.
Oh, she is? Oh, I didn't know
Living in an
that.
apartment. And then why would Bree not have a car? Because the person said that Bree had to move in with a relative because she had no car then. So it's kind of like, well, this is weird, because then Donna's still talking about setting up a trust for the child. Well, what about, poor Bree, living in a 1-bedroom? It doesn't seem to make sense.
It doesn't. It does not make sense. And clearly they don't value her, but they do seem to be connected to Roman, who I guess is because it's an extension of Charlie. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
He
the
does
closest
look
we have
like
to
Charlie.
Oh, does he? I haven't seen any pictures or anything.
Yeah. I think the Bree's mom took down some of the pictures of her Instagram.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, she used to have pictures of Charlie holding the baby on her Instagram. Yeah, so that's just awful. Well, what about the fact that Charlie's sort of girlfriend / house sitter, Janice, is a therapist? I mean, do you think that type of woman would be a good therapist? It just sounded so strange, like her weird moods and how she just sounded really like tough and kind of mean in her attitude, especially when she's yelling at the dog.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I have not listened to all of those with her. She's yelling at the dog.
Yeah.
But she's the one they're placing the dog with, right? Is her.
Yeah, the dog is with her. So, but see, I don't know if this is probably going to get on some people's nerves, but this is just what I've heard from other people, saying that most of the time people who go into therapy to become therapists or mental health fields, a lot of them have their own issues. So that's why they want to study, mental health, counseling, psychiatry. So did you find that to be the case in your experience?
Well, I take that, I was raised by 2 mental health professionals as well. My father was a clinical psychologist. My stepfather was a PhD level social worker. And I would say that people such as the people who raised me maybe get into the field with some sort of altruistic thing on the front end, but it ends up being a way to avoid working on themselves. Because if you're always just focusing on other people's problems, it's a place to hide. Mm-hmm. And so when I was, seeking therapists, when I realized I really needed help, in my younger years, when I started in my 20s, one of my priorities, when I would just ask them, like, are you in therapy yourself? Have you been in therapy yourself? My husband's a psychologist too. He's a retired psychologist. I mean, I've been around a lot of mental health in my life, but my husband's been in therapy most of his life, so, I mean, you have to deal with yourself, or you are going to end up like a Janice. You're going to end up just with a wall to yourself. And then whatever you haven't dealt with is going to be pushed out at the people that you're trying to help. And in which case, then you're not only ineffective, but you can be harmful, So, and she sounds like she has a lot of bad reviews. Did you see those reviews?
Yes.
That Fiction posted?
Yeah. Where she like told the patient to watch Girls Just Want to Have Fun for the whole hour to give her ideas, or just, you need to have fun.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, it was so weird. Let's see what people are saying here. Janice was so cold to Charlie during the jail call, but she did manage to get rid of his sex toy. That was funny too. I'm sorry to be laughing, but I was like, what?
There's, as we know, there is humor in this, all over this crazy trial. Like, I mean, this is not Janice, but I'll tell you, I made a meme today. I make all these memes that are like fall flat, but this was just a quote that I plucked out of Charlie and Donna's, one of their many hours. And he literally says to his mom, how long do I have to not cry for?
Oh, yeah.
How long do I have to not cry for?
That sounds like some sort of like country music song. How long?
Or like a little kid who's in the corner, like, Mommy, how long do I have to not cry for before I can get out of the corner?
Yeah. That's why he's going crazy, calling people nonstop, because he has nothing else to do. And he has all the money to pay for these phone calls. And People keep asking how much are the phone calls. So from what I've seen, I think it's like maybe like $6 for a 10-minute call. So it's not totally outrageously expensive, but he's talking for like 7 or 8 hours a day. So no wonder his phone bill has been probably over $10,000. And most people can't even afford a fraction of that. So he's lucky in jail that
he's very lucky that he can have that actual phone with him in that cell, because it does sound pretty brutal. And I will say, and I have said this, that I think it is pretty cruel that, you put anybody in a cell and you don't turn the lights off, that they have a light on around the clock. I mean, that he does have a point where he's like, if you're not suicidal when you go in there, you'll end up that way, because it sounds very, very cruel, the conditions of that. And I get that. He's in jail. People are in jail, and you got to watch. I'm coming from a psych nursing, and I have to tell myself he's not in a psych hospital. He's in a jail. But I mean, I think having lights on around the clock is pretty brutal. I don't mind it being brutal to Charlie, but I just say in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that does seem a bit torturous, because I remember one time I had to spend a night in the airport, and the lights are on the whole time in the airport, and I could barely even sleep. Like, you can't really sleep well when you have like bright lights nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, your brain won't shut down.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, do they give him an eye patch? Well, they're not going to give him an eye mask, but they're not going to give that,
because he could strangle himself.
Exactly. So like you're just stuck with, maybe putting something over your eyes or something. But, or something. But it does sound pretty brutal. And does anybody know if Donna is out of that yet?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet, has it, about her?
Yeah. Well, so misdemeanor, I think you're talking about Kathy as opposed to Janice, right? I would love to have her as my therapist. Does she still practice via Zoom? Okay.
I think misdemeanor is being sarcastic about Janice.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Are you being sarcastic, or are you asking Kathy, do you offer therapy, by the way?
No, just on my channel.
Okay.
And it's done in a New York accent that not everybody likes.
Then people will start sending you hate messages.
My husband, he cracked me up. We got drunk the other night. We had so much fun. And I told him I got this one. When you and I were on Surviving the Survivor, you saw that, where somebody called me a weirdo. And I wrote it down because it was so funny. Let me see. He goes, it's so spontaneous. Like, listen to this comment. He goes, you are a weirdo. That's what I love about you. You're definitely a weirdo. I said, I got to write that down.
Oh, yeah. There's some guy, Kelvin, who said that he thinks I'm mentally ill. And he also said I was a failed lawyer. So thanks, Kelvin. That is kind of funny. But
poor Kelvin.
I don't think I'm mentally ill. I know I'm kind of weird at times, but I don't think I'm mentally ill.
And he just wrote Kathy's Donna voice is my therapy.
Oh,
it's a love-hate thing. Either you're but I got stuck in it the other day. I was thinking in the Donna voice.
You couldn't stop.
I gotta get it out, and it's all wrong. It's not even the right. It's not even the right accent. It's like all over the map. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know that some people like us, some people hate us. It's hard to please.
It doesn't matter who you are. People are gonna hate you. It's just is what it is.
Yeah.
These live shows average 4 hours.
Oh, well, it is fun to find other people that are so into the case. So I'm glad to have met you, plus all these people out here watching us. So thank you for being our therapy too, because we can't find anybody else in real life to talk to about the Dan Markel case. So here we are in our little microcosm on YouTube. So Joy wants to know if Ruth had the visit. So that's what we've heard, is that she did have a visit, and I'm sure it was very controlled.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I don't know any details about it, but it's out there that she had a visit.
Yeah.
Is Fancy Fiction in the house?
Yes, Fancy is here. Thank you, Fancy, for being here too. Okay, so what is this? You had a detention sermon? What's that?
I'll send it to you, Judy. Well, I did it in full Donna. And
Oh.
I called him the naughty list, the naughties. Because there's been a little flurry, and I was speaking to somebody else, another content creator, like just recently. I don't know if these calls have like called him out of the cockroaches out of the cracks or whatever, but there's been a little flurry of trolling, and so I thought I may as well, instead of just doing my thing, because I have a one strike policy. You say one nasty comment, you're gone. And so I just made a little public service announcement, but I did it in full Donna about like how I handle you're welcome to make a comment, but you are gonna be hidden, and people don't know what that means. And it occurred to me in the shower, because when they're hidden on YouTube, they can keep commenting, but nobody sees it. And it occurred to me, that's exactly like Charlie's cell. He's in there talking to himself, but nobody can hear him unless he's on the phone, I just compared it to like, you got to go to the Charlie cell. Okay. So either going to go down in flames, you're going to go to the Charlie cell, or you're going to behave. So I did a whole public service announcement.
Okay. Well, I guess I need to watch that. Yeah. I've been so busy with work lately. I guess I've missed some of this Markel case content. Oh, what's this? Okay. So June says, I guess it's not the June, but someone else named June, left your story about the time you gave a homeless woman $100 and how your life changed after that. Oh, that's nice. So, well, I guess I missed that one too. So how did your life change after?
I did it on my last day of my job, and I didn't have a job I was going to. And someone had dropped off $100 bill at my house that day for something that I had helped her with, a class, and I'd totally forgotten she had to pay me. And I'll send it to you. I told a whole story about somewhere. And then I was driving to work on my last day. I had no job to go to. I was just quitting my job. It was my last psych nursing job. And I saw these homeless people on the side of the road, and it was like, I have to give them this $100 bill. And it was like an investment. It ended up being like an investment in myself by doing that. Even though it looked like an act of generosity, it was really just the giving of that. And I never had any trouble, job wise or financial or anything, it just was the timing of doing that. But thank you for saying that, June.
Yeah, that's really nice that people are listening and getting something out of what you say. Yeah. Getting back to your career, what kind of places did you work at? Hospitals?
My first job was a inpatient unit in a regular general hospital. And I started doing that when I was in college, because I did my rotation. Now, my father, he ran a psychiatric unit in a hospital. So, I was around that growing up, but I did my rotation as a student nurse. Then the program I was in, that you could become an LPN before you graduated with your bachelor's degree. So I became an LPN, but they actually recruited me because they had a slot opening up and they knew that I had an interest. And so I started working there as an LPN. Then when I graduated, I moved into an RN, and then I got my certification in psych nursing. And then I became the assistant head nurse. I was assistant head nurse of that unit. So that was my first, intensive psych nursing. And we had you would call it a padded room. We had a quiet room for people that were really acutely suicidal or super manic or something like that, a high observation room right next to the nurse's station. But, we kept the lights very dim. The whole thing was to keep the stimulation very low in there while we could observe them. So, I was thinking about Charlie's cell, anyway, I was flashing back on that. So, yeah. And then I worked in another facility after that one for a couple of years, where I was working when my sister was killed. I was at that job the night she was killed, actually.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Well, how awful. Well, sorry, we're kind of jumping around, but did you notice something was off about her husband? It sounded like you hadn't seen him that much before your sister was killed, but was there anything sort of weird about him?
Oh, yeah. There wasn't anything that wasn't weird about him, but it happened so fast that this is part of the reason I'm writing my book, because if you just look at it on the surface, she looks really dumb. I'll just say that, that she married a man after knowing him, I don't know, a little over a month, I guess, and
Oh,
impulsively and secretively. But there's all kinds of things leading up to that decision. And then, hiding it from me. And then I sort of guessed, and then she blurted it out. And, there's just so much to that story. But I didn't spend much time with him. I was there the night that she met him. And he spent Thanksgiving in my home. He came for Thanksgiving dinner, and he was just an ass, at Thanksgiving dinner. But, he was German. And so many things were blamed on a culture difference, a language barrier issue. So you couldn't quite know if you're reading him right, But, we were, one little scene is we're sitting around after Thanksgiving dinner watching E.T., and my sister, my husband's a lot like my sister, like she cried at everything. And she starts crying at the movie, at ET. And he starts in front of everybody. And he's meeting some of these people for the very first time. And he starts just berating her and making fun of her and calling her a crybaby. And, just in a very, making fun of tone, And so she left and ran to my bathroom. And then he followed her to the bathroom. So like the next day, I said, well, at least he followed you to the bathroom, because it's like, that was pretty weird. And she goes, no, Kathy, he didn't follow me in the bathroom to apologize. He followed me in there to give me more shit.
Oh, and they were already married by then?
Yes, they were already married by then, but not everybody knew. I knew it because they were going to do this whole Oktoberfest, Decemberfest party where they were going to announce it, which they did. And then 2 weeks later, she was dead.
Oh,
So, they killed her literally the day the life insurance policy was approved and came into mail.
Well, that's really dumb of them too, because you would think like somebody like Wendy would definitely know, wait a little longer, maybe,
Well, one of the motivations was they knew that she was going to take that policy home, because she and I were flying home the next morning for Christmas to Illinois. And she was planning on bringing that home for my dad to look over everything.
Oh.
So he had to head that off at the pass. And plus, they were just excited to get their hands on the money. They were pre-spending the life insurance. You guys, people, because they were so easily recognizable. He was 6'7", his brother's 6'5". They were going all around the Phoenix area, test driving Jaguars, Mercedes, Porsches, put money down on Rolex watches, special orders. They signed a contract on a custom home. They were pre-spending the life insurance before they killed her. And they had about 6 or 7 other women lined up after they killed her that they were going to do the same thing with.
Wow.
So all these people came out of the woodwork because it was a high profile, it was on the front page of the paper and everything. All these people started calling up the police station saying, yeah, I remember that guy coming into my dealership. Yeah, they came in. Like, they wouldn't have known they were doing all this pre-spending of the money if these people hadn't come forward. And probably a fraction of the women came forward because many of them were married that they were hitting on and, already starting their next lineup of women to do the same thing with,
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that these con artists would be a little bit more charming, but they still got women suckered in.
The other thing that struck me about this case, similar to ours, is that what's really stupid, you don't want to give anybody ideas, but it's really stupid, is if you want somebody to be dead for whatever reasons, in our case, it was money, life insurance. In this case, it was those kids. Why do you make it so obviously a murder? There's a lot of ways to set up a situation where, at least you could try to make it look like an accident or try to make it look like a suicide or something, but, that it's such an in Dan's case, it was obviously an execution. It wasn't even just even a, they had a very narrow window of possibilities of what that could be, a road rage thing or somebody with a vendetta or, and most of the roads lead to them. So it's just stupid that there's so many different ways that's, that could be accomplished. And, they just dumb criminals, I guess, or I don't know.
Well, after all the trauma that you've been through, then I just wonder, does it just bring back bad memories when you go to trials and hear about other cases?
It really doesn't. It doesn't bring up, it's not like re-traumatizing for me at all. It's, What's been hard about being involved in this trial is following it for so long before there was any justice. I know that I'm not alone, and that, like, when did we start seeing about it? Probably when Sigfredo and Luis got arrested is when we started.
2016.
Yeah, hearing about it and seeing about it in the news and seeing shows about it and stuff like that. But to know that, it went on for so many years without justice, that's hard for me, to look at that. And that's why I'm so rabid about seeing justice now, I think. But no, I'm not. It really feels like it's something purposeful for me, because I say with this kind of tragedy, and this would, I'm sure, be the same for the Markels, either you're living with it on the inside or on the outside, but you're living with it all the time. And this gives me like a relief to have a place to live with that on the outside with other people that are also having to live with it. So like we're feeling like we're finding our people here, in this chat and our community and stuff like that. Me going to a trial is like me feeling like I'm finding my people, and I'm not so alone. Because most of my life, I can't tell you guys how many people that I've met in my lifetime who have no idea I've been through that. And then when they find out, they're like, oh my God, because I live a pretty functional life, and I'm pretty sunshiny kind of disposition person. And so people are generally pretty shocked when they find out I've, not only lived through it, but I'm still living with it, every day in some ways. So going to trials for me is in many ways like a relief,
Yeah. And you try to help the victims too. So
any way that I can, like in this one, simply, because I'm a real believer in not just saying that, like, if there's anything I can do, let me know. I'm a believer in, like, let me think of something I can do and offer that, to like, just let me see if this might be something you might need. So when I wrote to Ruth, Fancy put me together with Ruth when I first started talking about going to the trial. So I started writing to her, and I thought, one thing I might be able to do is offer rides to the airport, because I'll be there with a car. Sometimes you get in smaller towns, they don't have great Uber and Lyft and stuff like that situations. And because I've been in that before, and I have nothing else to do. I'm not working. I don't have kids or anything like that. I'm just there with my car. So I just offered that. And I said, I'd be happy to do any airport pickups or drop-offs. And I ended up driving almost the whole family to the airport, in a couple different trips. So nice. Yeah. So it just was, gave me a sense of purpose. Like, and this is, I mean, when I drove them to the airport, and she's like, are you sure? Are you sure? I said, I literally have nothing else to do. Like, this gives me something to do today. Like, I literally have nothing else to do today. So please let me take you to the airport, So, it's just small things like that, but it made me feel good,
Yeah. Just like your idea of asking people to do acts of kindness, to think of Dan Markel. And then didn't you leave a book, or did you leave Dan's mother's book on the bench or something? When you were in Tallahassee?
Yeah, what happened was, this is a cool story. I don't know if everybody caught this, but that just sort of evolved because I ended up with a lot of extra books of Ruth's, because I went to her book signing and I just bought like 5 books. And I thought people are going to want these books. I know in my little YouTube community, and they did. And I sent books really all over the world to people that wanted to. I mean, it was special because it was a book from Dan's synagogue, that came out of that event that she signed. So I sent all these books to people, that just wanted to pay me for the book plus the postage and stuff. But I thought, you know what, I want to do a kind of a giveaway or something, with this. I had one, and then Ruth gave me one, so there were 2 books that went out for that. And then it evolved into this act of kindness thing. But so I went to the bench, and I made my video announcing that project from Dan's bench, that day. So that was how that, well, then I ended up leaving a day early than I was planning. And Ruth had been given a gift certificate for a local restaurant that she couldn't use. So she's like, oh, you're staying a couple more days. Please go use this gift certificate. Because, I mean, what it was like, Judy. There was no time to do anything. Yeah. There wasn't time, I'm sure, for them to go to a restaurant and have a meal. It sounds like there should have been, but there just wasn't. And, like, you're lucky you're squeezing in a meal, between this or that. And so she gave me that, but then I didn't have time to use it because I was leaving the next day. And it was like, I can't go there for breakfast, So I went to the bench, and I said, whoever is sitting on that bench is going to get this gift certificate, because obviously they live there. And there was a grandma there watching her kids. And I thought, how perfect, from one grandma to another grandma. And so I just sat down on a bench with her, said, can I just join you for a moment? And I said, I don't mean to intrude, but I want to ask you if you know this bench that you're sitting on. She had no idea the plaque was right next to her. So she read the plaque. I told her she knew nothing about the case, and she's local to Tallahassee. So I told her, the bare bones of it, told her about the plaque and everything. And I said, I have a gift certificate. I'm leaving town. Like, I think I was leaving even that day. It was one of the last things I did before I left town. And I said, I just said to myself, somebody, whoever's sitting on this bench is going to get this. And it was to a pizza restaurant. So she said, I'm going to take my grandkids to the pizza restaurant.
Oh, that's
I just
nice.
think the whole thing just worked out so perfectly,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, Karen wants to know your sister's last name. Was it Monkman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Monkman. On my channel, there are some links to some stories about our case. And then if you have, like, I don't know what it shows up. It's Investigation Discovery. I don't know if they have an app. They're out there. The American Monster and True Conviction are two recent programs about her case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, good that there's so much out there about the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so people are still asking about Ruth's visit with the grandchildren. We don't have any additional details about that. So, yeah. So, I mean, that must be so hard to have a conversation knowing that people are listening the whole time and you only have, say, like 1 hour or two. Maybe she was generous and gave her 2 hours today, or, I mean, whatever, Sunday. I don't know. That's so awkward.
Yeah. And isn't it ironic that they're doing exactly what this murder was done around, was Dan requiring supervised visitation for Donna. So it's almost like they're just punishing her. Like, how dare you, expect that from Donna, of all people,
Yeah.
And so now they're just making her go through that, after all these years, the venom and the vengeance and the punitive. It's just vipers. They're just vipers. That's what I call them.
Yeah. I did hear a little bit about Donna and Charlie talking about these visits that the Markels had with the grandchildren. And they said something like how it was weird, or that the kids thought it was weird. I'm like, well, it's because of you guys controlling and denying all the visitation all those years.
And they're teenage boys. I'm sure it was weird. They're teenage boys who were seeing these grandparents. There's going to come in their time in their life where that's not weird. I believe it. I do. They're going to become adult men who are the sons of Dan Markel, and they're going to want to connect with their dad. And there's going to come a time in their life when it's not weird. And I hope Ruth and Phil are still around for it.
Yeah.
But they're leaving the breadcrumbs if they're not. They're leaving a lot of breadcrumbs.
Yes. So thank you, True Lifestyles, for being here. She said, did anyone else not sleep well this week? Too many calls. Yeah, I feel like I'm so distracted and I had so much work to do. So I was like listening to my phone while driving or while trying to work and doing it on like 2x speed. But, at least Charlie is so repetitive that you don't really have to listen to even 80%.
The question I have, Susan, is did anyone else go to sleep without listening to the calls in your ear while you're going to sleep? That's been my every night this week. Like, I'm waking up, like last night I have this back problem, so I kept waking up with this back pain, and there's Charlie talking in my ear. I'm waking up where they're going. They're still going.
Oh, man. Yeah, all that talk about what, like, first he like repeatedly was trashing the jury, like those black people, those 5 black women and that one black guy and the 3 inbred white guys who couldn't even get a date, or the inbred jurors. I was like, geez, what kind of disdain is that? And it doesn't even make sense because he kept claiming that they were so pumped and optimistic before the verdict. So which is it? You know,
Yeah,
you knew
right.
from the start that they weren't going to give you a fair shake, or you thought for sure Rashbaum had done a killer job and you were
And
great on
picking
the
the jury.
stand. Huh?
And picking the jury with that Dubin, it's like they're still
Yeah.
praising that, but it's like, but it's your expert's jury. And the other irony is that if Fancy's still in here, she's gonna, because you know, and you saw this too. Here they're praising juror 15, like he was the only one, he was the only smart one, he was the only one that would have had any sense and been able to process anything. Juror 15 could barely stay in his seat. I mean, he was just constantly staring at the gallery. It got worse over time. You know, he was the only juror that wasn't inattentive, you know, and the rest of them were, you know, fixated on, you know, on the witness and, you know, watching back and forth. And here's juror 15, you know, all over the map and like rolling his eyes and staring at the galleries. He was like the most inattentive of all the jurors, but you know, he's the only smart one.
Were you there that, yeah, I think Fancy is still here, but were you there that day that the juror pointed out the women that were distracting him or something and got them kicked out?
Oh.
Yeah, wasn't that was kind of a big deal during the trial?
Oh.
That was those person.
Oh, that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I was there that day. Yeah.
Okay. Did those women actually get kicked out of the courtroom? Or maybe they were just given a stern talking to.
I'm not remembering. I think Fancy might have been in there with me that day. Did they get kicked out? I don't think they got kicked out. They were really pretty lenient in the courtroom. It got a little stricter as time went on. But I noticed in this last hearing that now they're banning cell phones unless you're on media, and it was not like that before. So they're cracking down. They'll crack down for Donna's trial, it sounds like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. There was oh, I was sitting right next to, there was a little altercation right next to me. They did not get kicked out. But the woman didn't come back in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, do you know the answer? Because it sounds like you've been watching her channel more. How's Gigi getting the jail calls?
I don't know. She said that somebody unrelated to YouTube who has no online presence has been sending her the calls. And somehow, I don't know if that person's been cleaning up the audio or if she's been cleaning up the audio. I mean, that's a lot of work if she's been cleaning up the audio, putting all these subtitles and then putting like sections of what's in each call. That's I don't know if she's doing all that herself or if the person she's getting it from is doing that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how you get this stuff. I've never tried to get anything. True Lifestyle would know more than me about how to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Fancy Fiction, she's gotten it too.
Yeah, sometimes you have to have friends behind the scenes who are like, here you go, you know.
Yeah.
Did you know what that guy's occupation was?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. And I'm going to be better in Donna's trial because there was dozens and dozens of people, you know, that were interviewed before it distilled down to the actual jury. So some of them just stick out in my mind. Like I remember the Queen was a chef. You know, there were just certain jurors that like stuck out in my mind, but I just didn't really take notes about them during the, you know, the weeding out process. But I think I'm going to do that with Donna's a little more diligently. Is there any chance 15 was a plant? I wasn't worried about there being a plant. What I was worried about, and it sounds conspiracy theory and a little paranoid, but I was worried about an Adelson trying to get a hold of a juror once they were seated. And find a vulnerability in one juror and throw money at them to throw the trial. I thought if they could do it, they would do that. You know, if they thought they could, they would. Why wouldn't they? That's what they do, you know? That was my concern.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Something about, they're talking about charging Ryan Fitzpatrick, can't they? I mean, I don't think so. I think Charlie is just blowing more hot air because he did keep rehashing this stuff, like saying, oh, you know, it's because of Ryan. You know, I wasn't even that good friends with him. I only texted him twice back in 2014, blah, blah. I'm like, so what about 2016, 2017? You know, because clearly Brian knew him better back around the time that Charlie started acting weird when people got arrested. So that was relevant. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think Charlie's just making stuff up these days. So yeah. Is it true Donna ditched Marisol? I don't think so. I haven't heard that at all. Did you hear? Yeah.
I've heard all kinds of rumors. I haven't heard anything confirmed about anything. My gut feeling, just based on piecing things together that I have heard, is that Rashbaum will take over Donna's case and maybe team up with somebody else, kind of like DeCoste and Kawas did. Maybe have a different partner, but that's just a gut feeling. It's
yeah. I mean, clearly he's working with Marisol, so no wonder they think that they can be ready for trial a lot sooner. So, okay. So it's their hobby. Charlie said Ruth spends more time promoting her book than she does with Bennett Lincoln. Yeah, it's like his own warped sense of reality. Like he has, like he doesn't care about the truth. He'll just say whatever he thinks should be the truth, as if it is true. I mean, what kind of weird, screwed up mind do you have to keep acting like that? It's clearly Wendy's. It was Wendy's fault that the kids became like strangers to their paternal grandparents. Yeah, but he just likes to make up his own reality.
Just keep digging. They got to keep digging it down through the Markels.
Yeah. Don't you think the boys will grow up to hate Wendy and her family? After all, isn't that the expected reaction to realizing that you've been conned, duped, played for fools, etc.? Well, what do you think? I mean, we heard about the Mike Williams case where Mike's daughter to this day still supports her mom and doesn't even talk to her grandmother.
Yeah, I mean, a biological parent-child bond is a very strong bond. And this has been cultivated since they were babies. So it's a tough one, I mean, I just keep hoping that teenage rebellion kicks in and, around the time of all this kind of stuff, and some other person unrelated to this case, unrelated to either side of the family, comes into their lives and starts reality checking them.
Yeah. Okay. So Esther says she's not going to buy Wendy's book. Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't want people to go out and buy it, but I know people have been talking about it. Yeah. So I bought a used copy on eBay. So you could try to check eBay or Amazon to get a used one. Yeah. But it is a real snooze. After a while, I kind of started glossing over the chapters written from the perspective of the immigrant clients, because it was just so boring, and it was written in a very, very narcissistic savior tone, like they need me, these women need me, what will happen if I lose funding? They need me. They gave me a little bear that had green painted eyes with angel wings on it. So it was like she's just like constantly congratulating herself and praising herself.
I can't.
Yeah.
Something that came up for me in listening today, I took some notes, was that Donna was saying the ultimate, this was her words, the ultimate is that they want the grandchildren. So they're going after us one by one. That was so sick that in her twisted mind, because it's all projection, because she's such a freaking malignant narcissist, that woman, that, I mean, she literally killed Dan to get those grandchildren for herself, not for Wendy, for herself. That's my belief. She wanted those grandchildren under her wing down there in Miami. And Wendy wanted that too, so she could kind of, have a break and relief from parenting. But she somehow, in her twisted mind, thinks that the Markels are driving the district attorney's office in Tallahassee to go after the Adelsons in these prosecutions so they can procure the children for themselves. which is exactly what they did. They killed somebody to do that. And guess what? Newsflash, Donna, that's not how it's done. As a homicide victim's family member, you don't have any say at all. I mean, you really don't. I mean, you can support they run certain things by you, but they're doing their job, which is very separate and apart from you and what you think and what you want to have happen. In fact, we went to the Attorney General's office at one point crying uncle about enough with these death penalty appeals. Can he just be taken and put on life without parole and just lock him up and throw away the key? And we couldn't get that done at that point. I mean, you don't have a lot of, and that would have saved them a lot because, gotten him out of that wheel of appeals. But, for her to say that's all that's happening here is that, they're just trying to get the children. They're just trying they're going after us one by one, Charlie, so they can get the kids, the grandkids. Donna has simplified the entire thing into that.
Yeah. It's like their whole mindset has been totally turned against the truth.
And talked about dumbing it down. That's exactly what they're doing. They're dumbing all of this down in these very simplistic, illogical conclusions. And let them keep doing that in prison. I just keep, whenever I start to get about that, because it's maddening, I remember, I have to stop and remember they're in prison.
Yeah, at least they're in prison now. So who cares?
Let them just spin it out in prison with anybody who will listen or not, because they ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. What about how shallow Donna and Charlie were, talking about how stunning June looked? Absolutely bizarre. Oh, I guess I missed that part. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they want to talk about, is what June looked like. I mean, how silly. What about his extortion? Everybody keeps saying that. How come he's not ranting and railing against Katie? That horrible, devious Katie who lied her head off and she tried to extort us. And I was so scared. I thought I was going to be killed by the Latin kings. And
I've been living in fear for 10 years, and all this. Yeah. Do they even bring up Katie at all? I mean, does the name coming up at all?
I think, who was it that said something about Katie? Maybe it was his friend Sky. It was one of the women. Sky is one of his female friends who previously had been talking to him in jail before the trial, but then in her phone call, she made it sound like she hadn't talked to Charlie in a long time because I guess he had her old phone number or something, or the wrong number. Yeah. So she's part Asian. So, I figured out who she is and what she does for a living, but I'm not going to say it. Yeah. But she actually sounded professional. She sounded smarter and more professional than the other women involved in this. But it's weird because first she tells him that she's in the car with her boyfriend, but then toward the end of the phone call, she's telling him she loves him. She's like, we'll figure it out. Love you, Charlie. You can call me tomorrow afternoon. I'll have more time. I'm like, what? Get a brain. Did you really watch the trial? She must not have watched much of it, to still be buying Charlie's stupid stories and listening to all that. Yeah. So once again, it's just so weird hearing these phone calls.
All I can say is the dude had some game. Because he got these women really attached to him, and it probably just wasn't his money. He just had good game because he's not a great looking guy. Even at his peak of good lookingness, he wasn't that great. I mean, he had a nice muscular physique, but the man knew how to wrangle women in,
Yeah. Plus he had lots of money.
Say what?
Plus he had lots of money.
Yeah, but he didn't spend it on them. Who was it that he was, lamenting about he should have taken her to Japan on that first class
Junko,
trip?
Somebody named Junko. I was like, I don't know who this person is, but
something who was that? I thought, is it June? And this is a nickname.
No, I think it's somebody else before he met June.
Because he said she had money.
Yeah.
It was mainly impressed with her money and her looks, that they're both good looking. And it was kind of satisfying to hear him have regret over that. But dude, he had 2.5 million frequent flyer miles and wasn't using them.
Well,
I don't know where those went.
He should have enjoyed his life when he was free. Too late now. Who's going to get the frequent flyer miles? So, yeah.
A lot of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah. Okay. I hope the Markel boys come to realize how evil the Adelsons are, but the longer they wait, the more damage and brainwashing will stick. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Because, I mean, this is sort of personal, but something slightly similar happened in my extended family, where we do have like this black sheep of the family who turned out to be doing some shady things, stealing money. But then there are some relatives who still think highly of this relative because they don't want to see the bad things that their loved one did. So, it is aggravating, but usually people are just stuck on their immediate relationships with the bad person. So they don't even want to hear anything about the bad things that this person has done to other people. So I think that's just the way people are. It's like, don't say anything bad about this person because he did blabby blab for me when I was a kid, and I have happy memories, and I don't want the happy memories spoiled. So
now there is a twist with the boys that could happen in that Wendy abandoning them. And I mean, if she is arrested and goes to prison, I could see her just snipping, or I could also see her just fleeing and leaving them behind. I really could. I mean, I think she is that self-absorbed. So, I mean, she could perhaps in her own behavior, unless she has something to gain from them, she could kind of help them wake up by abandoning them, which could happen.
Yeah.
I think she'll be arrested.
Oh, okay. Well, anything could happen, but I remember, was it Tamara, Dan's friend, who said that both Dan and Wendy love the boys. So hopefully Wendy doesn't abandon her kids, but you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, she still has her supporters, people who think she's such a great person.
I bet that's dwindling though.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Donna said Georgia put on the third grade trial. She's so arrogant. She says some of the dumbest things. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, should we wind down because it's been over an hour?
So time flies on these things.
Yeah, I know. It's really fun talking to you, and
it's too, Judy.
Find someone that really knows about the Markel case and really cares about it. So
I got to ask you, are you going to come down for Donna's trial again?
Of course. Yes, definitely. I mean, unless I have something really big with work that coincides, but I can kind of plan in advance. So, yeah. So I'm really surprised, like looking forward to hearing like when is her trial going to be, because Marisol made it sound like they're ready. They want to get this over with because Donna's innocent and she must be freed. So, maybe we'll find out in January when the trial is.
I think they'll start setting dates in January. I think they'll, they'll probably be, I think once they get into it, unless Rashbaum does take over. But once they get into it and realize how much work they have to do, they're going to start requesting delays. I think Marisol was just a lot of posturing, but I think they'll start setting dates in January.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they do at those hearings, at those case management hearings.
Well, maybe she would just do the same things that Dan did, Daniel Rashbaum.
Do it.
It's like, here are the questions, here's the order of witnesses, except of course they would probably want to call some more defense witnesses, besides just like one attorney. Yeah, Charlie will come and testify for his mom. Yeah, they're rehearsing already.
Yeah, bring it on. Let's see if we can get a 1 hour verdict this time.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? Like he was whining to Bree or maybe some other female friends, like, I can't believe they took less than 3 hours. It's like, what? It's because you were so obviously guilty. They didn't need to sit around any longer. They want to get out of there, and they knew you're guilty by then. So.
And they had their minds made up, and they can do that. You know, they can make up their minds, you know, before the summation. I just love it. George's summation was so good. And I just love that it's under in his craw, you know, so stuck there because it was so good. It was so good. In fact, I think I'll watch it again. Maybe I'll do it again tonight.
Go back and watch it again. Yeah. These phone calls. Yes, I think so. Yeah, they could be used as evidence against Donna, the ones where she's talking, you know.
I can't wait till we get more Donna calls from the inside.
Yeah, after she got arrested, that would be really interesting. Yeah. Okay. So Gigi was on STS. Yep, I saw that show, and they said they came to her cleaned up. Okay.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's really nice. I mean,
he's got a good connection.
Big thanks to whoever did that, plus whoever did all the work doing the captions. Yeah. Do you think Donna's I think she's gonna make it to trial. She seemed very feisty and mean, and she's a survivor, you know, that kind of attitude.
That's all she's got to live for. She's gonna fight to the bitter end.
Yeah.
Not gonna crumble.
Just like her mother would say, you know, like never give up. And
you know, the one who may not make it is Harvey. He could be the one that could implode, you know.
Well, who knows? And plus he's 80, but you know, he seemed to be in good health shopping at Costco though a few months ago.
Got the Costco stuff.
Yeah, he's still pushing the cart at Costco. So yeah. Okay. So True says there was one night she literally did not sleep and went, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, because that's what's like kind of a downer. It's like Mentor Lawyer and Carl, they both do their live streams so late at night or later for my time zone. So it's like, oh man, you know, I'm so tired, but I kind of want to hear this, you know. And,
well, Mentor Lawyer was up all night that one night, you know,
till or multiple nights, I think. Yeah, I think there have been multiple nights that
I was falling asleep with him talking in my ear.
Yeah, but thank you guys. You know, thanks to all the hardworking YouTubers, media people who are keeping this case alive. So speaking of that, maybe I'll go ahead and start showing some of the impact statements. There's just way too much. There's no way. I mean, I definitely cannot read this. It's 90 pages PDF.
Judy has all the victim impact statements, you guys. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's scroll up here.
I would love to read those.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just scroll slowly, and that way, if people want to read it themselves, they can do so later. Do you have anything pressing that you want to say to the people out there?
Me?
Yes, you. You're the guest.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at this. Bill Davis just put in a highlighted question. What could Donna's defense possibly be? With the attempted flight, signed checks to Katie, phone call. I can't fathom what her defense theory would be. I know what I think her defense theory should be, but I think she's going to still go with the if she's going with Rashbaum, she's sticking with the same story, the extortion thing. And I hope she does that because she'll be convicted very quickly because it's such a cockamamie story. I think what her defense should be, if she was smart, is that her son did all this on his own and she found out about it after the fact and she helped him cover it up, because it takes the murder off the table and it makes her, you know, it's almost like she's pleading guilty to the conspiracy with that defense, and it would give her a lesser sentence. But I don't think she'll do that. But I mean, and there's a lot of holes in that, but it still makes more sense. You know, if you're just a Joe juror listening to the story, it would make sense that a mother would be uninvolved, find out her son did this on her behalf because she complained so much. She could even cop to that and say, you know, I complained constantly. I felt so guilty that I did that, but he did it all behind my back. Had nothing to do with the murder. And then I find out that, you know, this happened. And then of course I'm going to protect my son. This is a story that would make sense. It's not what happened, but it makes more sense than the crazy triple extortion,
or double extortion, whatever
it is at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, because with the check, she could just play dumb, like, yeah, Charlie just asked me to do a favor for his poor ex-girlfriend. We like to help people, and she needed the money or whatever. I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
she
there's
needed
holes in it, but of course, there's gaping holes in the extortion. There's going to be holes in anything, but it's just what narrative makes more sense, you know, just on its face. And I don't think she'll go with that because, like, they're nuts and they think that it was a really good defense. They think Dan did a fantastic job and it was just the jury. The thing that she's going to do is she's going to fight tooth and nail for a change of venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She will fight for that.
Yeah, exactly. But see, even if they got a change in venue, it would still wind up in some other county not too far from Leon County. And then they're going to complain the same way, like, oh, all these like dumb hicks, you know, third grade level comprehension skills, you know, there are no rich, educated, you know,
sophisticated
people like us. Yeah.
It would be totally worse for her because Tallahassee, like most university towns, I live in one, are very educated communities. You know, that people are either interested in education or involved in education or influenced by education. And you get more educated jurors out of that kind of a community. So yeah, take it to some rural county in the Panhandle and see what you get there, Donna.
Yeah, good luck. They're not going to like you either. You know?
But she's going to push for a Miami change of venue. You know, she's going to think that she can demand that. She's going to talk to the manager of all juries, of all venues.
Talk to the manager.
Yeah, she's going to demand to talk to the manager.
It's a travesty of justice. Poor Charlie couldn't get a fair trial. All those horrible people in Tallahassee. You know,
Donna's the new Karen. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, she's probably just sitting there blaming everybody but herself and Charlie. Yeah. Although it is kind of interesting that there's sort of, or at least Charlie was sort of blaming Wendy. You know, like she had to go to the crime scene. You know, of course, it looked like the weirdest coincidence that specific day she had to be driving down that street. Yeah.
He does think that the whole thing could pivot on that. You know, he does kind of distill it down to that. Like, that's the one thing that's like this 1 in a million coincidence that could be the thing that, you know, changes a juror's mind. You know, he's right. And let's hope it's the same for Wendy's trial when she's arrested, convicted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but in one of the calls that I heard, it did sound sort of like Charlie believed Wendy's stupid story about the downed tree. Because he said something like, yeah, she thought it was a downed tree, so that's why she drove away.
He's like, all over the map.
Yeah, it's like, so what are you thinking, Charlie? What do you really think is true then? Like,
this is what I think about that, Judy. This is what occurred to me today, is that he has spent, 17 months in jail with one pointed goal. Did you catch where he called his jail cell his study? That he created. He did. He created it into a study, and he knew that he was never going to get that again. So he regarded his cell. He had a single person cell, so he had it all to himself, that he could go there and retreat, and all he did was work on the case. So he had this just one pointed vision where all he did was sit in that study by himself, memorizing these tapes, memorizing all of this documents and everything like that. It's almost like 19 months. Okay. And it's like he's still doing it. Like he's still in that track of like memorizing everything, reciting it, preparing for testimony. He knew that his whole case was going to pivot on his cross. And so it's like he's still doing that by telling his stories over and over again, like they're truth. And he has to keep telling it while he's in there for that 19 months in his study in a way that he believes it. So he's believable. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's still stuck, but occasionally he slips out of it, you know? So we're seeing him kind of breaking in and out of that. So sort of fascinating to watch if it wasn't so creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever run into psychiatric patients who acted like Donna or Charlie?
There was only one patient that we had, because see, normally people like that do not seek treatment, you know, unless they are involuntarily, you know, there's some sort of court order or something. And we had an open unit that I worked on. So people were there, you know, it wasn't a locked unit, but there was one guy that was somehow it was part of some divorce or something like that was in there. Just one time where this guy scared the crap out of me, the way he just looked at me. And I was a young woman back then, and just the stare. And, but yeah, that was like, oh, that's what a sociopath is. You just could feel something very different about that person. But no, they're more walking among us than seeking treatment. They don't think they have problems. Can you ever see Donna showing up at the therapist's office unless she was drug seeking? And she doesn't think she has any problems. She just want to get medication, to help herself feel better. I could see that being motivating, but like therapy, no, because she's better than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody else is just dumb or got it wrong.
Yeah. They're the ones with problems. They're not Adelsons. What was her line in that? No one beats the Adelsons.
Oh, Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. You have a very strong family behind you. Just remember that. Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet.
Yeah. You got it going on, Judy.
Yeah, I memorized all those lines because I kept rehearsing to keep recording videos, and then I would start laughing or mess up or something would happen. So I kept having to say the lines so many times that I got it memorized. Yeah.
That's awesome.
The
domestic
grandma was one smart, tough lady. I think about her all the time. And I think about what this intelligent woman, a wonderful reader of people, would say to you. She'd tell you to fight with every bone of your body. Fight for yourself, your boys. What was it? The best life you deserve, something like that. Okay, so maybe
my gosh, I'm gonna give you an applause.
It was really from one of the emails, fight for yourself, Wendy. Yeah. So she's probably thinking about that now while she's sitting in her jail cell. She's got to fight with every bone of your body.
Her mother is moving through her, and she's fighting with the force of all of her ancestors.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, that was so cool that you got a picture of Donna when she was a kid. So are you able to give us details about how you got that?
Somebody sent it to me. There's somebody out there that's, following my channel who has been doing a bit of a dive into Donna's ancestry and came across that. So I asked them to keep it coming. That's the only thing that I've gotten so far. But so we'll see what more.
Speaking of which, because I think like some people are saying things in the comments about Donna's family or her brother. And so one of my sources says that whatever obituary the person was looking at is not Donna's father, because Donna definitely has an older brother who's a retired doctor who doesn't speak to her. So that's not surprising that she has a relative who refuses to speak to her besides her son.
Yeah, there's a lot of severing that goes on with Donna. And, and that's why I wonder, I keep going back to wondering if she and Charlie could team up and flip on Wendy.
No, I don't think Donna hates Wendy. She keeps saying that she loves her daughter so much. She wouldn't flip on Wendy. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
It's probably your only way out. But
I think that Charlie would probably try to flip on Wendy after his parents die.
Yeah, I definitely think that's definitely a path for him. But I don't know, pain can motivate people, and she's going to be in a world of pain. There she is in a world of pain.
Yeah, especially once she sees that Wendy is not going to call her or have any communications with her. I could just
see that's Donna what I keep wondering. How's she going to react when she realizes that Wendy's abandoned her? Wendy's abandoned Charlie. She's already getting that. And she's sitting in there doing this time for Wendy, who's going to get all of her money, and like, how is she going to feel with that degree of pain? And she does not have a problem severing ties with a child. She did it with Robert. So, I think those things could potentially Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, keep talking while I scroll through this. Okay. Feel free to.
Let me see. I'll look at my notes that I made because I made some notes.
So you can see the comments, right? Because I
Yes.
can't see the comments while I'm scrolling. So feel free to address people's questions.
And also I said in my notes, Lacasse saying these Adelsons all lie to each other. We're seeing that with Donna reassuring Charlie, there's a lot happening. I can't tell you here. In reality, her energies are going toward their flight plans. So did you guys pick that up? Like she's just telling Charlie, she's dropping all this stuff to Charlie, like, Charlie, there's just this going on and that going on. And you got to hear from Dan. And I'm going to tell Dan, I can't tell you right now that, but really what she's caught up in that moment is not helping Charlie, is getting her ducks in a row to flee and lying to him about it. And like, how's he going to feel when he figures that out, but at the same time, she's, talking him off the ledge and saying all these things are in the works. And you can hear him kind of like, oh, there must be things toward an appeal that I don't know about, like that, giving him hope. And she's saying, don't give up hope because things are happening. Things are going on. Things are being worked on, Charlie. It's not going to happen overnight, but have hope, have hope. In reality, she's not doing shit for Charlie. She's just getting her plane tickets and her money's in order and whatever, all the stuff that she has to do. But I don't think she's out there pounding the pavement for Charlie and his appeals. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day to do all that stuff. And they're scrambling to leave the country, so she's not working for Charlie, but she's leading him to think that she is, And so, well, I mean, there's all a bunch of
she did also like try to calm down Charlie and say that Roman's always going to be taken care of, that there's a trust where Wendy's going to be in charge of doling out the money.
Third in line. Wendy's third in line to be in charge of that trust, which I found interesting. First it's her and Harvey, then it's Michael Mintz, and then it's Wendy, which said huge amounts to me because Wendy is right there. Michael Mintz doesn't even live in the area. Yeah, so here's Wendy right there, a young mother with 2 kids of her own, directly involved, and she's the last in line of that succession to take care of that trust. That said a lot to me. She's like the last resort. It's almost like, well, we got to tack Wendy on there at the end,
Well, I guess because they always treated her like the big baby of the family. So maybe Donna doesn't trust Wendy to be able to handle the money.
And it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure as long as there's money coming toward her way, Bree will be happy and keep supporting them.
Yeah. I mean, money is a motivator, and she does have a kid, and, why they're not helping her to not have to be living in a small apartment and working full time, I don't know. But he has 2.5 million frequent flyer miles. I just can't get over that.
Yeah. So that's also probably another reason Bree wanted to get married, is because then she'd get all sorts of extra perks.
Yeah.
Not just for her son, but for herself.
So,
yeah. Oh, so I remember hearing that, didn't Donna say that she wanted Janice to get out of the house in 2 weeks? Did you guys hear that?
I missed that.
Yeah.
Hey, and of course, go ahead.
Oh, Janice, of course, she's like upset more about, she's like, babe, I don't have a place to go. Because she's like,
I haven't listened to all the Janice ones.
What?
Wow, I haven't listened to all the Janice. I didn't realize that she's complaining about that.
Yeah, because she's concerned about herself, which is she needs housing, because I guess she's renting out her own house. So there's a tenant, so she doesn't have a place to go. So if she gets booted out of there.
And like, where's the long range planning there? Maybe you should have thought about that. Like, it might be a possibility that he's going to be convicted. And if he didn't, he was going to move back and live with Janice. Was that the plan? I mean,
I guess that's why he still had that Quail Harbor house, which is weird because you would think he'd want to go back to the Torduca's Lane house because that's newer. But he's probably also paranoid that that's where he was arrested. So he doesn't want to go back there thinking it's bugged or something, has bad vibes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What do you think was the reason Donna and Harvey went over to his house? Like right before they fled, like the weekend before? And
you mean before they fled? Well,
yeah.
Maybe she just wanted to make sure everything's taken care of one last time. Maybe.
Because she even says that to him, I think, in one of the calls, like, I need to go over to your house.
Yeah.
So I wonder if she was like pulling out the rest of the cash from the safe.
No, I don't think they would have cash there if Janice were living there.
I don't think so either. I wasn't thinking they would let.
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't trust.
But who got it out? When? I guess maybe they would have gotten it out before she moved in.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't keep the cash where his like sort of girlfriend was hanging out. So, yeah.
And I'm also very curious about Donna's cash, where that ended up.
Yeah, well, probably to Wendy, you think? Like they just decided that Wendy should take over the cash at least?
Maybe.
Because she was supposedly helping them with their visas. So she was still, in cahoots with her parents for a while.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think I recall hearing about that. Yeah. So, boy, I'm only on page 25. So I'm still scrolling just in case people want to watch this on replay. And
I believe Nancy Fiction is coming on at 8.
Oh, okay. So I better hurry it up then. Yeah.
So are you going to post these documents?
Okay. Well, some of these look like they scanned the same page. Well, I don't have a way to post it for YouTube. So maybe in the future, if I could get Remy or some other people to help read a few of these things, that might be nice. Oh, these are pictures of Dan with his friend.
Aww. Giselle and Ted Chandler.
Okay, so these are all names. Just goes to show. Yeah, I think they scanned the same thing more than once. Some of it. Yeah. Okay. So what else are you planning on doing for your channel?
Oh, well, this Saturday, this Saturday is the 35th anniversary of my sister's passing. And so I was looking for a date to do, because we were already talking about doing like a Christmas jammy, let's gather, on the channel and do a live, get a cup of eggnog or whatever. And I was looking for a date to do that. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it on the 23rd. And one of my friends sort of stimulated that thinking in me, and that she's always honoring like her best friend that passed. I think it's about close to 20 years ago now. And so she's Jewish. And so there's a word that's called like Yarsite or something like that. Are there any people in the chat that know that word? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's like Yarsite, which is the date of someone's death date. And so she put on there is Spencer's death date. Please go do something fabulous for yourself today in his honor. And so I thought, it's good to honor people on that date and do something that's a positive thing. So I'm going to do that on Saturday morning. So we're going to gather, like, wear your Christmas jammies. And I said, if anybody wants to send me a picture of them with their Christmas jammies, I'll post it on my channel and stuff. And Yahrzeit. Thank you. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the word. And so that's what's coming up this weekend, is like, we're going to do a live Christmas gathering. And I have a very funny, weird, sad, everything around the horn, heartwarming story about a Christmas pickle. And I'm going to tell it on Saturday. So.
Okay.
So anybody's welcome to join for that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you still have any surviving family members who knew your sister, like cousins?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm close to my one cousin who's in New Hampshire. And so, yeah, she has a lot of, I mean, she's, quite, maybe about 10 years younger than my sister was. So, she grew up with us as a little girl, but she has a lot of memories of my sister. And of course, my brother, my brother and I, in fact, I had breakfast with him today.
Right. I forgot you have a brother. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you the oldest?
I was the middle, and now I'm the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's sort of the bizarre thing when you've been raised to be a middle child your whole life. Then at age 29, you're just suddenly thrust into, now I'm an eldest child, So that just reoriented my whole life in a very unexpected and weird way. So, yeah, that's going to be my next book is called Middle Child. It's about that. So when I finish this one. So.
Okay, great. Let's see. So what was your impression of the Dan Markel's family?
The restraint that they have shown is remarkable. And I know, it's partly their nature, but partly they've had to navigate a world that is unfathomable to me, of like just playing their cards right because of these grandchildren who are their only connection to Dan. And the closest thing that I've seen to that, which is the truly most heartbreaking movie I've ever seen in my life, which is Dear Zachary. How many people have seen Dear Zachary? Have you seen it, Judy, that movie? It's a documentary. No. A best friend of a murder victim sets out to do a documentary for the son of this murder victim, to have like a legacy to leave. So it would be as if Dan's best friend set out to make a documentary for these kids so they would know who their dad was. And that movie will break your soul. And in the process of that, even more tragedy unfolds in the process of, I could just burst into tears even thinking about it. But the restraint that the parents of that child had to show with this evil woman who killed their son and fled to Canada and got away with it. So she was in complete control of their access to their only connection to their son, which was this little grandchild who looked exactly like their son, was having to manage through this evil woman who killed their son and got away with it. So it's very similar to what the Markels have been navigating, that the only access you have to the only remaining living, breathing manifestation of your child that you lost was murdered is through the evil woman who murdered him, and so they have to navigate that too. And they also showed, I reached out to that couple actually and sent them a long letter after watching that. And because they're prominent in this film and they've had to navigate that life as well. And they're also Canadian. No, wait, they're not Canadian. Mm-hmm. The woman was Canada, but there's a big Canada presence in this whole story. So I think the Markels have just had to develop a style of navigating their grief while at the same time restraining their grief. So I've seen it peak out a little bit with Ruth and things that she said more recently. And maybe it's because there's actually justice coming and maybe we'll see that become more of a flourish in her if and when Wendy's arrested. But it's just heartbreaking that they've had to, be so measured in things they say and decisions they make and all that kind of stuff because they've got those boys at the forefront. So anyway, mm-hmm. Ruth is a really remarkable person and she's really fun to hang out with. And we went shopping and we went and got our nails done and, we did stuff like that. And I spent a lot of time talking with her about my book. She gave me a lot of good advice. And, you were there when she got us all together that night and, said, we're no trial talk and everybody goes around. That's when I learned Judy was a figure skater. And I held that for so long. I never said it until you said something. Everybody had to say something about themselves. And like, she's just was such a gracious host. All that. So I'm really
that was fun. That was fun that she made us go around and everybody had to say a couple of things about themselves that people didn't already know. So
Yeah, because we knew we had that
yeah,
case in common, but we didn't know anything else really about each other, and it was really cool. So
yeah. So the rule was we couldn't talk about the case. So
even though we
of
were
course,
kind of, it was like a long table and we were still talking about it, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
she
that
hosted
was so
us and we had a
wonderful.
meal and everything. I mean, there were like a lot of us there, and she's been so appreciative of people keeping this story alive, and I think a lot of that comes from that it's been very quiet in Canada compared to here. So she is just,
Mhm.
I have not had, I don't think, any exchange with her where she's not like leading with that. Like, we appreciate so much that you're keeping alive. I got an email recently from Phil Markel. I reached out to him, after his impact statement, and I wrote him an email, and then he wrote me back. And it's like the first thing is, we appreciate so much that you are still talking about this and that you still care about this and that you're still keeping this story out there, that so it's like, it's important that we keep doing what we're doing, Judy. It's important to the
Mhm.
family, without a doubt. It's meaningful to
Mhm.
them.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at this one paragraph here that Orly Lopel, a law professor, wrote. She said, most of all, Dan loved his boys, Ben and Link. Dan talked about you constantly. He loved taking you to Canada to visit your grandparents and your aunt. He was proud of you and protective. He fought to spend as much time with you as possible. On days he didn't take you to daycare, he made sure to come to the daycare and have breakfast with you. When you weren't together, he missed you terribly and made sure to Skype with you and always wished you good night. He had so many plans for you.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, my voice stinks as usual. I'm just like still ailing here, but it's so sad just reading these
It
words.
is. And those are great that they're out there, though, because the boys hopefully one day will be able to see those. And, I've talked about on my channel, I lost my mom when I was 5. So I know
Yes.
what that's like to long for information about your parent that you lost. And that's around the age that they were when they lost Dan. And I mean, I navigated a world with somebody who tried to erase my mother. And I still emerged from that with a quest to connect with my mother. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of things like that, but I did find a suitcase full of letters. My grandmother, my dad's mother, so it was her mother-in-law, kept every letter that my mother wrote her. So, I mean,
Oh,
that's how much
that's
she
nice.
loved my mother. And so, I mean, but it's just, I think, just an innate, quest that you want to find your parent and know them and feel a connection to them, and no matter what age. So, I mean, I'm a living, breathing testament of that, of wanting to know your biological parent no matter what has happened,
Mhm.
to try to erase that person. And so I really
Mhm.
feel like that will ignite in those boys one day. And that is a powerful force. It really is. And Donna will not be around to squelch it. She's going to be in
Yeah,
prison
that's what's
or
good.
dead.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I don't think Harvey has the wherewithal to do that on his own. Charlie's not around to squelch it. And let's hope Wendy won't be around to squelch it. And so, there's a lot of breadcrumbs, even through these things. They'll want to go on his blog and read about him. They might want to read his book. They're going to want to see pictures of him. They may reach out to friends. There are so many friends of Dan's that would welcome them. Like, I'm thinking of Tamara. Tamara Demko is really interesting because, I met her on a few occasions, and you think of Dan as being this like really outgoing, loud, outspoken, very dominating extrovert presence. That's kind of how he's been described in, walking into a room and like, boom, here's Dan. Tamara is kind of the opposite. She's very quiet and very,
Mhm.
she even has a soft speaking voice, and she's got just a very gentle way about her. But she and Dan Markel were best friends, which I find really interesting because they're very opposite, I would think. I mean, I'm just giving my impressions. I don't know if she would say that about them, but like, he was drawn to her and she was drawn to him because she regards him as one of her very, very best friends at the time, if not her best friend, and even Wendy knew that. And I just find that really interesting. She's a very smart, introspective person with depth, but, she's a very different, personality style than Dan, which tells me a lot about him, that he would want to bond with someone like her, and in a very wholesome, it wasn't like a sexual relationship. It wasn't like they dated and became friends or anything. I mean, she was truly like I take that more like a brother sister kind of, but deep friendship. And my husband has a female friend like that. And I think it's really good for a man to have a really good female friend like that. Anyway.
It is? If he's married? I don't know.
I'm okay with it because this is like a high school friend of my husband's who I've tried to steal.
Yeah, like some old buddy.
The coolest freaking person, and that's what Tamara was like. I think they were college friends, something like that. When you're in your formative and you're making friends and stuff like that. But she's a person that those boys could find who would just be there waiting, who's full of stories about their dad and wouldn't push her way into their lives. And she would be a soft place for them to land, that she's not controversial. She's just there. Tamara's just there. But, that would be a great resource for them. And, there's many people for them that aren't going to be feeling like they're betraying their family. By, it's different than reaching out to Phil and Ruth. It could be like an entry point, and I think anybody like Tamara, anybody, if they were to reach out, want to talk about their dad, would steer them toward the Markels, in some way or another. I think they would. They wouldn't block that or in any way. So Tamara Demko is on SBD. Yeah. I don't know what that is.
Is on what?
SBD. Is an SBD. What is that? I don't know what that is.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't see the. Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know what that stands for. She said she trusted Dan immensely. I mean, she has deeply, deeply grieved his death. And she's a very unique and special person.
Yeah, I mean, she just seems so genuinely devastated in her police interview, which was a huge marked contrast to Wendy, with Wendy's like blubbering like woo woo, like carrying on and then trying to like misdirect the investigation this way and that way and blabbing about her blue eyes and the bullet bourbon and the clerk, and it's just compared to Tamara, Wendy's police interview seemed totally suspicious and weird.
That's a very good point. If you were to look at those like sort of side by side, I know that Ryan, I don't want to butcher your name again, Monster Motive and Madness. Why can't I say that? Madness and Motive. Is that the right podcast? Brian on that. He's doing this code thing, code analysis. And I just started listening to it, comparing like Wendy with Jeff Lacasse. But I mean, anyway, I'm just thinking about that. But like, if you were to like just sort of intuitively look at Tamara's interview and then to look at Wendy's, it probably would be more stark that Wendy was lying. Because if you see somebody who's truly genuine, then that's going to stand out more. This person who's, Oh, SBD is silent but deadly. Okay.
Oh,
Tamara Demko is packing. She told Amy not to worry. She was packing.
Yeah. I remember she said something about how people saw her relationship with Dan and said the two of them were like two pieces of a puzzle finally together. I mean, she was really a true friend of his. And so it's nice that she's come out to tell people about what kind of person he was. And, she was friends with Wendy for a while too, even though she met Dan first through Harvard Law School. And so that's what makes it even crueler that Wendy didn't even contact her. She was the one, she had to find out through a mutual law school friend that Dan
Mhm.
had died. And then she made it a point to drive over to Wendy's house. Otherwise, Wendy probably wouldn't even have contacted her.
She was just getting her ducks in a row to hightail it out of town. And even
Yeah.
Jeff Lacasse, who, yeah, they were broken up, but it was fresh, and it's not like they had some huge fight, and it was more like she was still in that, like, taking space mode with him when this
Yeah, like,
happened.
don't contact me for a week.
Yeah, I mean, that's different than somebody that you've, like, been trying to break up with, and, like, you are finally just like, "I can't see you." I mean, or there's been terrible, terrible fights or whatever. It was still strange that she didn't reach out to him, given how involved he was with her life and how involved he was with the kids, that she wouldn't just sort of bypass that, like, "I know we just broke up, but, like, I could use your support." He was a person who was very supportive to her. She didn't even reach out to him, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And also, remember Tamara said that first Wendy was talking all about Jeff, maybe in June of that year, but then later she asked Wendy, what happened with Jeff? And she was like, what, there's no boyfriend or something like that, that made Tamara think, boy, this is kind of sketchy, like it kind of points more toward Jeff being used.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Which is just horrifying. My
Yeah.
heart goes out to Jeff Lacasse with just how many levels of trauma that man has had to navigate with these vipers.
Mhm. Yeah, poor guy. I mean,
Yeah.
plus also all these years worrying that Charlie could potentially come after him or
Mhm.
send somebody
His own
after him.
personal safety has been at
Yeah.
risk, and there he is still living in that town, and still having to show up and navigate, going to trial for these people. Like, wow.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to scroll through here. I know. Oh, great. Fancy's live is starting. So,
Yeah,
so
I
we
know.
yeah, yeah, there's just like so many people live streaming, but it's all good. It's great to have lots of attention to this case. um okay, so this is from Tamara Demko.
Oh, there's
Okay.
hers.
Oh,
Oh, I love
okay,
him
so
always, and I
she
will
be
miss him forever.
yeah, it's
Oh, she
just
says,
so
"For all
sad.
who knew him, his loss leaves a void that cannot be filled. Dan Markel was simply ... irreplaceable."
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking.
Mhm. Okay. So, well, we might as well end it on this note,
Yeah.
since people want to listen to Fancy now. I'm so glad she's back on YouTube because I did get some messages from people wondering, what's going on. Is she still doing YouTube? Where's the content? So, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate
Hey,
you
thanks for having me, Judy.
talking to us. Yeah, it's always great to talk with you. I'm so glad we met through
Me
this
too.
case down in Tallahassee and everything. So,
Me too,
okay.
Judy, and we'll
Yeah.
have more times down in Tallahassee,
Oh,
probably
definitely.
next year. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you all. So, okay, I'll see you on Fancies.
All right.
Okay.
Jump over to
Okay.
Fancy.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
Have
night,
a good
everybody.
night. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.